Welcome everyone to the 2022 Holistic Pain Relief Summit. My name is Trish Rossiter and I will be your host, and I'm thrilled that you've taken the time to join us. So throughout my nursing career, I've always been aware of people who, for one reason or another, don't want to take pain medication when they're in pain. People close to me are concerned of addiction. They're concerned about side effects. And I know, just because of my own personal interest, that we have a wealth of knowledge around us for other ways that we can help pain. So I've decided to invite a lot of our guest speakers here today to share with us how these complementary alternative practices can help us with our pain, get back to living a life that we love without drugs and intensive interactions. You know, some steroid, yeah. So I'm going to have to edit that somehow. So this summit is for men and women with pain who have a strong desire to get back to enjoying life fully and functioning better on a daily basis without the need for drugs and invasive procedures. If you haven't already done so, I invite you to join our Facebook group. Each day of the summit, I'm going to post a thread where you can post your questions to our speakers and to the rest of the community. And we'd also love to hear as well your best takeaways from the day's speakers. So right now I want to welcome Susan McCulley. Susan has been a mindful movement teacher, artist, and writer since 2000. She's a creator of the Age of Becoming Embodied Practices, Empowering Women Over 50 community, which offers free movement practices and workshops and connection and community and more. Susan has recently published on the Insight Timer meditation app a 30-lesson audio course called Building Balance in Your Body and Life. Susan is a NIA Black Belt instructor, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit later because I love NIA. She particularly loves teaching embodied awareness to people of all abilities and experiences and in groups of all sizes, both in person and online. Susan is passionate about supporting people as they connect with the inherent wisdom of their body and take their practice into life. Susan is also the author of 2 illustrated books. These are really fun. Buddha Cat, Learning Awareness, Presence, and Self-Care from a Teacher Who Sometimes Barfs on the Bed, and Octobusy, Letting Go in a Sea of Doing. Susan's teaching schedule, classes, books, and her art are available on her website at www.susanmcculley.com, and we'll have those links posted for you. So, Susan has chosen to speak today on the topic of mindful movement and balance and how that helps with pain relief. So welcome, Susan. Thanks for joining me.
Trish, it's lovely to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. So would you like to share a little bit more about yourself, about your story, how you became focused on, you know, these types of dance and sharing your community?
Yeah, for sure. I was brought into somatic practice or body-centered practice, pretty much kicking and screaming. I had grown up with a very Western kind of gym rat kind of mentality in regards to exercise and self-care, or not even self-care, just sort of medical care. And a friend of mine invited me to a NIA class. And I was just like, no way. No, that's too strange. I don't understand it. I don't know what it is. For 2 years, she invited me to go with her. And finally, I went just to shut her up. So I said, okay, I will go. I will go with you as long as you stop inviting me. And I did. I went to a NIA class where I live here in Charlottesville, Virginia, and it was different, and it was a little strange, and it was awesome as well. So I took classes, loved it for a year or so, and then became certified to be a teacher in 2000. And as part of NIA, NIA actually is a Swahili word that means with purpose. And so this is movement that is purposeful movement. And I would, after my years of experience, I would also say that it is a practice of embodied awareness. And what I love about it is that it draws wisdom from many different practices, including martial arts, dance arts, and healing arts like yoga. And so in the practice of becoming a teacher, I started to explore all of these modalities and realized that there was just this wealth of resource and wisdom that I had no idea about. And it totally changed the way I approached moving in my body, taking care of my body, and taking care of myself. So we hear the word mindfulness a lot these days. You see it in headlines a lot, and even in big corporations and the military, they're using principles of mindfulness.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, that's what I mean when I say embodied awareness. But when I hear the word mindfulness, I think about it's still head centered, and we come from a culture that is so thinky. It's so associated with this holding up of intellect, of thinking above all other gifts. And embodied awareness is really tapping into the genius that is in every person's body. And so that's what I love to share and teach. And over the years, I have used all of my learning, and what I teach now are classes that I call nourishing movement. And I invite people to come and move their bodies in ways that feel good, that are in alignment with what works for them. And as we were talking about, I love doing it both in person, and what I discovered, thank you to the pandemic, that I also love teaching online and offering experiences that are both connected and private. And I found that when I was teaching in these big, glass walled rooms in the middle of a big gym, a lot of people were like, all right, I'm not gonna do that. It feels too vulnerable or exposed. But the joy of being online is that we can all be in our own private spaces, rocking, doing our movement, and nobody has to be watching, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I've tried a few classes of NIA over the last few years, and one day maybe I will also become a teacher. But that feeling of movement, I could not believe how amazing it was, and just letting go, and it's very special. And if I looked at videos online, I was always kind of, they look really happy. What's going on here? And that was before I tried it. Yeah, absolutely. I too came away very happy.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that makes this kind of movement different is that It's not about doing it right. It's not about what it looks like. And I intentionally do not call it dancing, in that we tend to have so many associations with dance. I know that I did for most of my life, that a certain kind of body type, a certain age, a certain skill and athleticism was required to dance,
Mhm.
when that's not the case. And in fact, last year I broke my foot, and found that I was able to dance even without being on my feet. It's about moving. It's about moving your body and being connected to that movement. And it can, I appreciate, he's like, they look very happy. And right, it can be a little bit like, what's going on there? I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure what's going on there. And the truth is that this is the way our bodies are designed. Our bodies are designed to move.
Yeah.
And our modern culture tends to have us being far more still and sedentary. And as I said, very much more in our heads,
Yeah.
focusing on the thinking, when there is so much to access in the whole body.
Right, right. So I love your example that where you had injured your foot and you were still able to to access the movement by sitting. So you didn't have to be on your 2 feet. So I think that's really helpful for perhaps people who are going to be listening in. Um, can you tell us a bit more about how that works?
It's a great segue, actually, because um, I was definitely in pain, discomfort, both from the injury, but I also had surgery. And then I had this big wonky cast and boot and everything. And there was part of me that was like, well, I can't move then because I'm injured. And there were times where I could feel my focus going to the discomfort and what I couldn't do. And what I invite for everybody, but particularly for people who are in pain, who are struggling with any kind of um, painful experience, and I would include in that emotional pain, anxiety, depression, as well as physical issues,
Mhm.
is that we can be tempted to block out and disconnect from our bodies and from our sensations
Mhm.
in an effort to disconnect from the pain.
Mhm.
And it's a totally understandable response to want to do that.
Mhm.
However, our system, our body mind system, is a holistic system, and it's not an a la carte menu. If you decide to block out your pain, you are also deciding to block out pleasure, to block out all sensation. That you can't pick and choose.
Yes.
And even when we are struggling with any kind of pain, there's more to it than just the pain. There are parts of us that are not in pain, or parts of us that are feeling quite neutral. And so practices of embodied awareness invite us to expand our attention beyond what may feel like just a relentless uh, drive to be focusing on the pain. Yeah, does that make
Yes.
sense? It's like
Uh,
we're opening the aperture in our attention, and allowing
yeah.
ourselves to feel more, which
Yes.
can feel really intimidating if you're feeling a lot of pain. Like, I don't want to feel more. But
Yeah.
what we find is that by expanding our awareness, we actually can tap into pleasure even when we are also experiencing pain, right?
Right.
So So I had my foot in a cast and stitches and all the stuff was going on, but my shoulders and my arms felt fluid and
Mhm.
expansive, and I was able to feel both, right?
Mhm.
And 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 so right now, let's we can do it right now, is to just check in with your body, however, wherever you are, if you're seated, if you're walking and listening to this, whatever you're doing, just notice the sensations that are most predominant. And those often can be discomfort, right? Very often, like I can feel my left hip right now. I can feel that there's some tightness there. And that's important, to be connected with what that's information from my body. My body
Mhm.
is telling me something is not quite right here, or I need to shift what I'm doing.
Mhm.
However, I can also feel at the same time, there's some ease in my right hip,
Mhm.
and I can feel my breath moving,
Mhm.
right? And I can see that there's sunlight coming into my office, and there's a sense of openness to the space around me, right? And so this is really what embodied awareness is about, yes, listening to pain and discomfort, but also listening to places that feel good, that feel more neutral, that we can tap into places that, like, I don't know, I'm not feeling anything in my hips. That is an awareness right there, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is the what I think of as being the pleasure principle, is this willingness to be open to feel more and allow pleasure in, even when there are other things going on.
Right, right. It's fascinating because um, I've just recently become aware of how much I have actually blocked in my life. And I didn't even know I was doing that.
Yeah.
So I know when I'm enjoying something, but I was doing a little mindfulness, a study group with a couple of friends, and it talked about where do you feel it in your body, and I said I don't. I don't.
Yeah.
So that door is now open, and but it's certainly something I never pushed away on purpose. But I wonder, has that been your experience with a lot of people that they don't even realize that they've
Yes.
closed
Oh,
those doors?
absolutely. Absolutely. What you describe is so normal and so common. It is part of our brain's sort of defense mechanism, to kind of override and dissociate, right? Disconnect.
Yeah.
And so this is why this is a practice, is that I notice it in particular when I talk to people about emotional and mental pain. If they are feeling anxious, or if they're feeling angry, one of the practices that I invite people to do is to, if I'm walking into a situation, say I'm walking into a conversation that I'm worried about, and to notice what I'm feeling, and exactly as you say, where am I feeling it? Am I feeling a flutteriness in my chest? Is my stomach feel knotted? Do I feel a tightness in my throat? Do I feel confused? All of that information is incredibly helpful in grounding ourselves and perhaps directing our choices based on what we're hearing, what we're feeling in the body,
Mhm.
right? And and at the same time, I can also have tools, things like feeling my feet and moving my hands. If I'm going into that conversation, I can get into my body instead of being swirling up in my head. What am I going to say? And I always get nervous and I lose my words or whatever. Instead, I'm like, feel my sits bones on the chair or feel my feet on the ground. And then I'm in connection with my body, and it gives me so much more resources to effectively, skillfully manage whatever it is that I am facing.
Right, right. Thank you. Yes, that's what I did at the beginning of us chatting. It took a few minutes to actually
Yeah.
to sit with it and to allow that to happen, but very, very helpful, that
Yeah.
description for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. That's exactly. So whether it is physical, mental, or emotional discomfort, we can use the same tools to check in with ourselves, to ask, and it can sound kind of woo-woo to ask, like ask your body what you need.
Mhm.
And it's amazing what can come up. It's like, this morning I was feeling very rattled by the news, and I took some time to sit, had a warm drink, and I said to myself, what do I need? What does my body need? What does my mind need? And I just needed to be still.
Mhm.
There's a part of me, again, the culture is very much like doing oriented. I gotta
Yes.
call somebody and I've got to
Yeah.
do something. But my body said, no, you just need to just be still and ground yourself. And then the right action will come clearer. Not always crystal clear, but much clearer than if I'm in the swirl of it. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. So what I hear you inviting us to do is that, especially if we're not aware of how we're feeling in our body, is to maybe um, plan plan a time in the day, maybe when you after you brush your teeth or you have your coffee, just to sit and tune in to our body.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great practice to do. And that doesn't always work for everybody. So for some people, taking some time like I did this morning, it's just to sit, hold my teacup, just feel my sensations, can be really powerful. And if that doesn't feel like it would work for you, another thing you could do is shake your body or go for
Oh,
a walk outside or hug yourself, touch your body, right? This is why we practice lots of different ways of getting into this place of embodied awareness, depending on the situation, depending on your personality and your tendencies, and depending on what you need, like depending on the situation. Yeah.
right, right. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, that's a great encouragement, and I I want to set my timer now to because I'm not used to necessarily sitting and reflecting. It's like you said, it's go, go, go. And
Yeah. Yeah. And so your suggestion of hooking, it's sometimes called coupling habits together. If you want to build a habit, for example, of checking in with your body in some way, a great way to do it is to start with something that you already do, like brushing your teeth or drinking your coffee or whatever it is that you do without thinking, and then intentionally hooking your new practice to that.
Mhm.
And behavioral scientists are showing how powerful this is in burning neural pathways and incorporating new approaches into into our days. And because this is what happens, right? I mean, the biggest part is not even necessarily deciding that it's a good idea. It's remembering to remember, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so one of the things I often talk about is movement snacks. Like sometimes what gets in the way of us doing a movement practice is like, okay, I gotta get a different clothes on, and I've got to set aside an hour, and maybe, I mean, in the before time, I drove to the place where I did the thing, right? And it's like all of those are obstacles to get in the way of doing some movement. And
Yeah.
what I encourage is for several times during the day is to pause. Maybe it's between the work section and going to have some lunch, or when I shut down my computer, taking 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 1 minute to move in some way. And it doesn't have to look like anything. It doesn't have to have a name, it doesn't have to, there's lots of ways of just getting into my body and getting it moving in the way it is designed. It's designed to do this. And it's the most natural thing in the world. And so sometimes I encourage people, if you like music, is to put on a 3-minute piece of music and like shut all the doors to your room and just move around, right?
Yeah.
I also have many suggestions for movement snacks. We can link to that. I have a little YouTube channel that has all of these things, because it doesn't matter what you call it. And if calling it exercise stops you from doing it, calling it dance stops you from doing it, don't call it that. Call it something else, and find a way of incorporating little bites of it throughout your day.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that idea of calling it something else, because I know for myself, I would be resistant to, because it doesn't fit the preconceived idea of what exercise would be. But, crank up the disco music and it's so
Yeah.
much fun. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And again, there is the universality of
Mhm.
our human bodies and the way that they are all designed, and then there is the uniqueness of each of us.
Mhm.
And I think that is such a big part of my teaching, is to both honor who you are and what you love, and be open to experiment and play with something different.
Mhm.
So you mentioned
Exactly.
at the beginning, you mentioned the balance course that I published recently on Insight Timer. And a lot of that course is about observing, how do I do what I do?
Mm.
And how do I make choices to either build a new habit or break an old habit?
Mm.
So a
Mhm.
perfect example is, how do I sit down and stand up from a chair, right?
Mm.
Something we do without thinking
Yes.
of dozens of times probably during the day.
Yeah.
However, there are ways that will improve our body's alignment and strength and ability to age well and comfortably. And
Mhm.
there are ways that don't. And so first observing ourselves and then getting curious about how I might do it differently is so much a part of this practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So we're reaching the end of our time together. Is there anything else that you wanted to speak about?
Well, I think the other thing I would say about balance that I would just want to make sure is clear is that one of the things that happens over time, the longer we live in these bodies, the
Mhm.
more that our bodies are doing the best they can for us. And that often means that they are compensating
Mhm.
for injury, for habit, for discomfort. And the invitation of a balance practice is to check in with that. And it can help, especially if you're having pain, to find ways of realigning yourself, realigning your body, realigning the way I think about my movement, in order to create more ease, right? And more, yeah, more spaciousness in the body. So it's all connected.
Mhm.
Embodied awareness, a balance practice, mindfulness, it's all together, a way of realigning ourselves to the wisdom of our bodies.
Right, right. I love it. I love it.
Mm.
And I've enjoyed your classes as well.
Great.
So
Yeah.
maybe this is a good time you can talk about the free gift that you're going to share with us. And I likely there will be some gentlemen on this call as well. And I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that they'll be able to access.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do have the online community that is focused on a community of women who are roughly over 50. But my classes, yeah, I have men and younger folks and all ages and all abilities in my classes. So my classes are called Nourishing Movement classes. And I am delighted to be offering 4 free live classes and at the end of June, and we'll have all the information about those there on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 o'clock Eastern if you want to do them live, but you will also have access to those classes for a full month after the summit is over. And we'll give you a flavor of this balance between moving in your own way and experimenting with moving in new ways.
Right, right. Well, that's wonderful, Susan. Thank you so much for sharing your passion for movement and balance as a way to achieve pain relief.
Yes.
Um, it's really fantastic. For those turning in, be sure to come back for the rest of the interviews on on the Holistic Pain Relief Summit. Remember to access your free gift from Susan, and that will be posted with this interview. And pop into our Facebook group and share your takeaways from our chat with Susan. And if you have any questions for Susan as well as if you know anyone who can benefit from the learning and the teachings that we're receiving from these expert guests, please be sure to share. And they can join at holisticpainreliefsummit.com. Our videos will be up for 36 hours, so have a watch and share them around. And thank you, Susan, very much.
Thank you, Trish.
I appreciate it. Thank you.